Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record every Mondays at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time. If you enjoy the channel, please hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. Turn notifications on and you will get an email link with this full episode. And if you want to submit to this show, take a look at the information in the description.
From Commerce 5.5. Effective stack, you could say, was 450 because it never really came into play.
So Commerce, let me tell viewers, Commerce 5.5, 450 effective. This is a 500 cap buy-in. And I don't know, Joel, how much you've played in the game, but have they ever talked about raising the cap, or they thought that it was going to be too close to the 1500? Because they have been them and Hollywood Park have been very, very steady about keeping their cap for the $5 game at 500, and usually those games are the best games in town at the $5 blind level, Commerce and Hollywood Park, and I know you play in both of them.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about moving them up. Hollywood Park, everybody just seems to really like the 500, and so I don't see no need. I think the 510 is a $1,500 cap.
Yeah.
So unless they move that up, I really don't see them moving,
Sure.
moving the other one around it.
And those games have been there forever, so they're probably not going to move them. All right, so 450 effective, 5.5 Commerce. By the way, the rake and the drop kills you when people come from the outside and they play in LA. I mean, this is, people complain about a home game. I mean, they are taking a flat $6, and I think it might even be $7 on the river, no matter how big the pot is, if you see a flop. So the collection really, really eats you alive in these games and flat drop LA games. You got to watch out. Sometimes change your pre-flop style up because you don't want to be doing a lot of over limping and limping in pots. That's for sure. It just eats you alive. All right, so 450 effective.
Most of the ones, 450 effective. We get a raise from the middle position to 25.
Okay.
Two folds to me. I'm on hijack. I call with ace of spades, jack of clubs.
Okay.
And then the button calls, and then the big blind calls.
So MP1 to 25, hero calls, hijack, ace of spades, jack of clubs, button calls, and the big blind calls. Is that right?
Yeah, big blind did call.
All right, cool. So big blind calls. So the pot is $100. Now, people will say, Joel, sometimes will be like, oh, like at a 5-5 game, this is just a fold sometimes. You're playing short. It's a large open. By the way, it definitely gets tricky in these games because, as you can see, the straight 5x open, which is quite common, I'm sure, right? So, I mean, it's, we're 95 blinds effective. Well, yeah, you are, but it's when you face live large sizing, it's a lot shorter than people think. I think this is kind of a pure call here. I mean, I'm sorry. I would never fold this hand at 5-5 Commerce unless the guy was a huge nit. Whether or not you could 3-bet it sometimes because you got people behind you, obviously you could do that. But then you get into some sort of complicated post-flop situations that might be profitable, but players that play at this level might not exactly know what to do. So that's why I say I don't necessarily advocate that unless you're really comfortable doing it, because I think a lot of guys get lost in what they're supposed to do, and you're not giving up that much by just calling. So the pot is 100, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The flop comes out. Jack of spades, 10 of hearts, 6 of hearts.
All right, so you flop top pair here. There's 2 of hearts out there, right? Jack of spades, 10 of hearts, 6 of hearts, and you have ace of spades, jack of clubs. Okay.
Yeah. Big blind checks.
Mm-hmm.
Original razor checks, middle position, original razor checks.
Yep.
It comes around to me, and I go, well, I got a bet here.
Sure.
And then this is one mistake I made. For some reason, I only put out 40. I said 40 for some reason. I think I should have went bigger, but I announced 40, and that's what I had to put in. I
mean, here's the thing. Like, it's one of these things where, like, in theory, because it's multi-way and because there's a lot of, uncapped ranges out there and things like that, you're actually supposed to go a little bit smaller multi-way. If you want to make the most money in these games, I would pretty much go large. And then at this point, Joel, like if you were to bet like say 65 or 70 here, and now a guy, moves all in for say like 300, or whatever the stacks are, I just have a very difficult time folding here. I mean, you will be up against like Jack 10 sometimes and possibly a set of sixes, but once the pot gets this big, you're going to be getting an incredible price, and I just don't think you can fold here with Ace Jack. So if you want to start a larger bet, fine, but we won't be folding unless something crazy happens, basically. I don't think that the 40 is like a huge deal, but I mean, that's sort of what my thoughts are on it.
Yeah, usually I try to always go at least half. I know you're supposed to downsize. That seems to be the big thing, but I like to go at least half, and I was like, oh, shit, there's 100 in there. I should have went at least 50. But
I could get on board with a larger sizing here, like on a board like this for sure, with what these guys are calling with. So you bet 40.
Yeah.
Yep.
Button calls, big blind calls, original razor calls.
Button calls. Wow. So button calls, big blind calls, MP1 calls. So the pot now is what, 260, right? You just put in 160. So it's 260. And now we go to the turn, and by the way, you only have like 400 left in your stack. That's what I'm saying. Like there will be some, I mean, listen, people are going to adjust, but it kind of reminds me of when online went dark, like around 2010, 2011. There were some good players that I knew that were online players that came in and struggled at the 5-10 game at Commerce for a while because they had never seen anything like this. So they don't know what to do. This is just like such a textbook Commerce hand. You know what I mean? Like you just got called in 3 spots. The pot is 260. You have Ace Jack. And of course, everybody's sort of short, right? Like you're not dealing with a whole lot more than like 1 pot size bet left, 1.5 pot size bets left. It's very interesting. And by the way, there aren't a whole lot of safe cards for you here on the turn.
No. And the button was a short stack. So and I was looking at him when he called, and I'm like, well, he just called, so he must have a flush draw. If he had a jack, I figured he might just move all in,
The button was a little bit on the shorter side, but on the flip side to that, though. Oh, so you think he would just go with the jack basically, because he's so short?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the turn.
The turn comes out as the 6 of diamonds.
Okay, so Jack of Spades, 10 of hearts, 6 of hearts. Of course, it's important for you to look at the distribution, right, of the suits on the flop, because if the 6 of diamonds comes out now, it's not like someone can have 6x of hearts, right? Like this would be a little bit more concerning if the 6 wasn't a heart on the flop, but that's not the case. Hey, I just said that there weren't many good cards for you, Joel, like that don't change things, but this looks to be like one of them. I mean, we're talking about probably, by the way, I don't think a 10 would be really good for you from the way that some of these bozos plays, but a 6, I mean, a 6 should be clean. Like I would be looking for an offsuit 6, 5, 4, 3, or 2. And I'd almost rather have those hands than an ace, to be honest. I mean, it's probably pretty close, right? I'm just thinking of the possibility of king queen coming in and everybody playing an offsuit king queen. If you were to say, hey Bart, would I rather see like a deuce fall here or an ace? Maybe I would say rather get an ace because I would probably still get a lot more value from hands, but I think a deuce is safer than an ace here, and I think a 6 is probably safer, a little bit safer than an ace. So did it get checked to you here again?
It got checked to me here again, and this is where I made the big mistake. I got lost. I was looking at the big blind going, okay, he called. He could actually have a 6. And I'm thinking nobody else can but him, but then he checked. And then I realized I was thinking for a long time about this.
Yeah.
And I just basically got lost. And then I talked to a friend of mine, and she said, you should have bet 150 right there. And I ended up checking. And as soon as I did, I screwed myself.
Well, here's the thing.
Because I'm giving a free card.
But why just out of curiosity, why do you think that? Because, the big blind shouldn't have a 6, right? Now, I know people will play counter to the way that they're supposed to play. So sometimes you get kind of screwed in these spots, right? Like when you bet 40 and the button calls, the big blind is not supposed to be overcalling. He's not supposed to be overcalling with the 10 here. He's probably only supposed to be continuing on with Jack X plus and his draws. Now,
yeah,
I will probably say though, Joel, and you can agree or disagree with me, but you've seen this a lot where they just think that they're getting a price, right? And they'll just peel with like 5-6, right? Like you bet 40 into 100, the guy call. So now it's like, oh, 40 to win 220. I'm going to call with 7-6. I'm going to call with 5-6, something like that.
That's exactly what happens a lot in these games,
And
all LA casinos.
yeah, and that's, I mean, obviously that's not I mean, that's why we make money in the game. But those things are going to happen. We just got to look at this from afar and be like, what is traditionally going to be a safe card for us here? If the big blind ends up with a 6, he ends up with a 6. You know what I mean? You're going to make money off that guy like over the long term. But I do think that this card is probably one of the best cards that you could see, and I would be very, very comfortable betting here. You know what I mean? I would be very, very comfortable betting here. But you decided to check.
And then button checked.
And then button checks. Okay. So it gets checked around.
So the river is another safe card. It's the 3 of diamonds.
Okay.
And, of course, it gets checked to me again.
Oh, well, now
I'm betting.
hopefully, hopefully now you realize that the big blind doesn't have a 6, right? It looks like the pre-flop raiser, who's MP1, and it's going to have like a hand like ace, king, ace, queen. You already thought that the button has a flush draw anyways. Now, this is, one of the, I put out, these tips and stuff, on social media quite a bit. And I will recycle some of the tips. I think some of the more common, more important tips here. And an argument could be made, although I don't agree with it, in your spot here, Joel, that it's pretty obvious that that the guys from up front don't really have a calling hand here. You might have a weak jack from the big blind, okay? So then the argument would go, well, if you think the button has a flush draw and none of these guys from up front have a calling hand, why not check and try to get the button to bet his busted flush draw and check call? Now, while that is okay logic, it still isn't the best approach to these games because people make calling mistakes more than they make like over bluffing mistakes, unless you're dealing with an absolute maniac. So in general, my approach to this spot is that I'm going to definitely value bet. I feel like there is way more money to be made by betting here with ace jack, getting called by, I don't know, a 10, getting called by ace high by the pre-flop raiser, then checking and then somehow the button now deciding to bluff his stack all in into 3 people with a busted heart draw. Now, the thinner you can go here too, or the thinner that you bet, I love to depolarize in these spots here at the end too. And what I mean by that is that if you can put out a value bet in a situation where most of the other players in the player pool will not, you'll actually get called down a lot lighter because these guys would think about the situation if they were in your spot, Joel, and they would be like, well, I'm not betting. Well, I would never bet a jack here. I just check to try to win the pot. So if he's betting, he didn't bet the turn. He doesn't have a 6. If he's betting, he must have a bluff, right? And then they'll call you down with a 10. They'll call you down with ace high. And then if you have those in-between hands that you can value bet, now you're going to get the extra value. So the pot's 260. What did you think about here with your sizing?
I went 120.
120. Okay, that's interesting. I'm trying to think about what kind of sizing that I would use here. Because it just doesn't look like people have a whole lot here. Like I said, I mean, it sounds to me like you're right. The button, if he's short, he's going to be jamming a jack, especially on the turn, right? So preflop raiser doesn't have a jack. So now we're really just looking at the big blind. And it could be. It could be Jack X. I might go I'd actually might go a tad smaller here, Joel, just because I think everyone's really weak. I might bet 75. And again, it's just based upon what you think the other players have, not necessarily the strength of your own hand. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So you bet 120.
Well, the button thought about it. He finally made the call, and the other 2 folded.
So the button called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I show my ace jack. He flips over a jack, and he goes better kicker, and he mucked his hand.
So do you remember how just for the graphic how much did the button start with? By the way, do you know how much money he had? The
button was the short stack. He was the 450. He was pretty much effective stack.
Okay, he was the 450. Oh, so he was the short stack. Yeah. So he just checked behind on the turn. Interesting. Didn't. So I mean, here's the thing. Like when you said that, he would like raise. He's not super short. I was thinking that when you had said that in the beginning, like maybe he had 200, right? You bet 40 and you're like, well, if he's got a jack, he's just going to raise, right? But if he started with 450, I mean, calling there is fine with the jack. I'm surprised he checked through the turn. I mean, I wouldn't check through the turn. So that's interesting that we get a little bit more information there from you in the fact that he was deeper and that it kind of changes things. So if I had that information now, I might like your bet size a little bit more. If the button was short and we think he's going to jam all jacks, then I would like a smaller bet size at the end. But if the button can still have a jack here, I don't mind it at all. Joel, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA200. Click on the link right there.